Welcome to the first podcast of Sheev's Throne Room. I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm joined by Adrian and Shawn, who I roped into doing this podcast with me. So let's get at her. If you guys want to introduce yourselves and just give a brief summation of how deep into Star Wars you guys have gotten.
Oh, you want us to be brief?
Well, as brief as you can. Shawn, if you want to go
Okay.
first, you can.
I'll go first. So I'm Sean. And my brief summation of how far deep I am into Star Wars is probably not as deep as Cuck, but my introduction to Star Wars was when I was 6, when the VHS copy of The Empire Strikes Back landed in my grandparents' video library, and I was scared to death of Darth Vader, and then discovered I really enjoyed lightsabers when the entire original trilogy re-released later on in the 90s. And then I dove headfirst into all things Star Wars when the prequels came out, and did everything from spending hours drawing Star Wars characters to reading obscure, well, not really obscure, but like what I felt were obscure Star Wars novels like Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Um, and then I've just kind of casually followed it all the way up until current day.
Hell yeah.
That was brief.
No,
No, I'm just kidding.
Brief as I can get.
Adrian's like, I like the movies.
They were fun.
They were fun.
No, for me, I've probably just seen all 9 of the movies that are out right now, bits and pieces of Clone Wars, and that's it.
Did you see
That's all I
Solo?
got for
See
Oh, yeah.
any of the shows?
all the non-canon stuff, the shows, the
Well, that is-
Mandalorian.
I mean, that
Oh,
is
yeah.
canon. It is canon, but
Oh, well, there you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
you
you have
watched
the
like Rogue
super
One and
fan.
Solo. And
So I've
Solo.
seen Rogue One, Solo, and Mandalorian.
Hell yeah.
So you've got the super fan who's Cuck,
Yeah.
and then you have the casual fan who is Adrian, and then you have me somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I'm just here for a good
I'm the
time
Bendu.
when I see Star Wars.
Basically, for me, is I live and breathe it. There's basically there is no day that goes by that I'm not interacting with Star Wars in some shape or form. I literally fall asleep to Star Wars audiobook every night. So that's about my level for anyone, for the one person that's listening to this. So basically, what I was like talking about doing this for about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, and finally after the Mandalorian season 2 finale, I'm like, I just want to talk about Star Wars with my friends. I'm gonna make this an excuse to make the podcast. So here we are.
It was a finale that was like worth talking about. It was also a finale that was like, it was a big enough finale that like this is going to kick off a
This
lot
is
of
literally, it's changed Star Wars, the landscape
Yeah.
of what Star Wars is going to be forever.
yeah.
I left it confused. I don't know if it's because I don't know a lot about Star Wars.
We can get into that. Also,
Yeah.
totally spoilers, because if you're listening to a Star Wars podcast after the Star Wars show just finished airing, what the hell are you doing?
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
just blanket spoiler warning, because we're literally going to be sprinkling it throughout this entire episode, I'm sure.
yeah. So what did you guys think of the season 2 overall? Because I loved it. I thought it was better than season 1, and I absolutely adore season 1.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, not saying that season 1 was bad, but season 1 was amazing. But season 2 just like topped it. Overall, was you got a little bit of everything. We saw more of him. Not with just Baby Yoda. That's his name, right? Baby Yoda. No,
Grogu.
we got a name. Grogu. There you go.
Yeah.
We got a name this time. We saw more of him than just him and Baby Yoda together. Fuck Grogan. I'm not gonna get. It's not
Whatever.
gonna come through.
It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun seeing just the Mandalorian doing stuff this season.
Yeah, it was. I liked season 1. I liked season 1 because it felt like season 1 was all about us getting to know who this guy was. It felt like it was very much structured as a this is not Boba Fett. This is what a real Mandalorian is, which I thought was actually good. Like that gave me
Yeah.
enough context to go, okay, cool. This is where it is. I won't say I didn't have to Google how many like multiple times throughout the season exactly what the time period was that the Mandalorian was supposed to be happening in, because for whatever reason I just could not keep it placed. This season I was much better. I was like, okay, I know when this is happening, but it still didn't prepare me for all of the very cool surprises. Like that's what I think season 2 was for me. It was how it wove itself back into the overall the bigger story that we've kind of had going for decades at this point.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I think I got excited about for this one, is because you saw like Ahsoka, and you saw our little surprise at the very end of season 2, and oh my God,
Well, even like little characters like Cobb Vanth, the fact that Cobb Vanth is in the show, it blew my mind. I'm like, okay, they're bringing in like a person that was literally in 3 chapters of a trilogy of books into like the fact that happened on the first episode. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be something crazy. Like they're literally grabbing from everywhere they can, comics, TV shows, books. I'm like, okay, this is like it kind of set the stage for what Luke showing up at the end. Like you went everywhere, you went the gamut of Cobb Vanth, who's literally nobody knew, to like the biggest, I would say the biggest person you could bring into a show.
After I watched the episode, I immediately came to you. I was like, "Who the fuck was that guy? Why was he so cool?"
Bro, it's the Marshal.
Dude, he was awesome. Like it made me like I want to see more of him.
I'm hoping, because they just announced Rangers of the New Republic, which is going to be taking place kind of like coinciding with Mandalorian. I'm like, I want him to be in that show as a main. Like I don't care what anyone else says. I want that. Cobb Vanth is,
him as the main character.
He doesn't even have to be a main character. Like just put him on the show somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't anyone that I really knew any more about than like a name. I knew the name. That was it. And I knew that he was interesting, but it didn't really sink in for me until I kind of looked into a little bit more of his backstory, and then actually like kind of watched how the show kind of built those 2 episodes around him. I was like, okay, this guy's good. He's a good character. There's potential here. But I think they did that. They kind of set the stage in season 2 for just how far their reach goes when it comes to pulling in characters from the universe. And clearly, if they're pulling Luke in, then the doors are wide open for pretty much anybody at this point.
Literally anyone.
Like they could literally pull anyone in next season. Like the reintroduction of Boba Fett, like, oh my gosh, like it's right up there with like the reintroduction of Darth Maul.
Honestly,
when we realized that Darth Maul didn't die and Darth Maul comes back in, it was the same feeling for me, although bigger, because Boba Fett was so much more a part of my childhood. So
seeing him show up was just mind blowing. It opened up the second half of season 2 to like a whole nother level.
Yeah, like for me, I love Boba Fett in Legends. He was one of my favorite characters in Legends, but in canon, since Disney's taken over, have not cared about him. He's just kind of like the evil bad guy taking on bounties and stuff like that in the comics, and that's about it. That's all we got. And then finally with this, I'm like, okay, they're actually going to be doing something interesting with Boba. Especially like the one episode, I think it was, I forget which, the tragedy, that was what it was called, when the Robert Rodriguez directed one. Man, when he drops, well, not even when he doesn't even have the suit of armor, when he's just beating people up with a gaffy stick. Yo, yeah. Huge fan of Boba now. I'm all for it. I don't care what the Book of Boba Fett is. All I know is I'll be there for it.
Exactly. I think they knew that too. Like naming it specifically the Book of Boba Fett and ending with that post-credits shot. Well, that was just
with Fennec sitting on this. Oh man, it was so cool. And Fennec is another one that they killed in the same show and brought him back. And I'm like,
Now is mainly for me and for anybody who may not be as into Star Wars. Now, is the Book of Boba Fett an actual book?
No, so I think
they just gave that title.
It's unclear at this point. It's definitely not a book. It's a show. But it's unclear at this point if it's Mando season 3 or if it's a separate show, or if it's gonna be something that's like Mando season 3 is happening. Let's say it comes out on Friday, and Book of Boba comes out on like Monday or Tuesday. That's that they'll be like swapping out. It's unclear, so I think we'll find that out soon because
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to know.
they can't sit on that.
Given
What's up?
yeah, given that given the way that they've kind of handled the naming of the different episodes. So we obviously each episode is a chapter.
Yeah.
And we know that this show is called The Mandalorian. That would indicate to me that they're either making an entirely separate show called The Book of Boba Fett, or essentially introducing a new show called a spinoff, essentially called The Book of Boba Fett.
I would love to see that.
But
I would love it
I
too.
almost don't. I know. I almost don't feel like it's going to be in addition to The Mandalorian. I feel like it might. I don't know. I feel
Well,
like
Just
they-
be its whole.
They
It's
the
just be
also
its
story
own thing.
continues. You
a
know, the
week
story
before this
continues.
happened, they announced the shows Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic, which take place at the same time as Mando. They didn't want to
Mhm.
spoil the Book of Boba Fett during the press conference. So my theory is that it's all going to be happening at the same time, and because they already said it, they're going to do like this big mashup at the end for all these shows to be like an Avengers level kind of thing. So that's my theory is it's going to come out the same time as Mando, and they're basically going to be interlocking stories but separate in their own right. That's what I think is going to happen.
I feel like the way they ended it was just their way of just saying, "This is how we're ending, and this is how the Book of Boba Fett is going to start." Pretty much here,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool because if the show just comes out of nowhere without seeing an ending like that, we're just like, okay, it's just there. But because we saw like the last few episodes with Boba Fett in there, we're just like, okay, we have an idea of who he is and how he could be, and then we know he took control of what was
Jabba's
that
old
place
pa-
called?
Jabba's
Yeah,
palace.
Jabba's Hut.
We killed Biff
That was
Tannen.
really interesting. Yeah, that was it.
Boba, I thought you were dead.
My ass. Yeah, right.
All right. What was your guys'? I would say like what was your top 3 moments in this season? Do you think? Adrian, you go first.
Oh, damn. Definitely Sokotoa. Seeing Sokotana. How's that how you say it? Yeah, there you go. Mine sounds cooler. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm pretty sure what you said is like an island off in Hawaii or something.
It probably is, dude. Who knows? I don't know these names.
Or like
But yeah,
Bionicle.
Bionicle character name.
Crossover right there.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna try saying the other names that I'm thinking of. For sure, her and the sheriff, or what's his name, Marshal.
Vent.
There you go. He was dope too. And what was the other part? I actually have the episodes up right here. Honestly, yeah. I don't know my third one, honestly. Yeah, probably have to come back to that one. Because, like, learning his name and just the in-depth that we got with her in that series, I feel like it was also, like, an introduction to her and how we may see her act in her show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got for that. I'm trying to think of the third one still. Sean can fill in until I figure that out.
Okay, so I think my favorites. This one's tough because there was a lot in there that was just very, very good. But for season 2, I think probably kicking off with like the crate dragon. You always hear about crate dragons,
Mm-hmm.
and you never actually get to see one. And I don't know why that was such a big deal for me. But like seeing a crate dragon and like having a whole episode just kind of builds around how huge this thing was very cool. That one, like the whole episode really got the whole season off to a good start for me. So that was definitely a top moment for me. Second one was probably Ahsoka Tano. I think knowing that she was going to be on, it wasn't as much of a surprise, which I'm a little bit disappointed by. I kind of wish that seeing those
The leaks.
white lightsabers appear out of the mist probably would have been enough to just really make me lose my mind. But it was still very cool to see her brought to life by Rosario Dawson. As much as I'm kind of like conflicted on that one, it was still very cool to see her look like Ahsoka Tano. And it did just feel like a very rich episode. That just had a lot of her in it. I was very, very happy with that whole episode. And then the third one would have to be the moment when I saw the black glove on the hand holding a green lightsaber. I think I told you, I made a sound that I was not in control of in any way, shape, or form. When I saw that on the TV, I lost my mind. I lost my mind because I didn't think that they would actually bring Luke into the series. I didn't think that was even an option. Like most shows stay as far away. Like you look at like a lot of Marvel and DC's like, side character superhero shows, like they don't really bring in the big guys very often. Like occasionally you'll get maybe a hint. But really they don't do much with the main superheroes. And it's kind of what I thought was going to happen with this one. I felt like it was just going to be a sideshow and we were going to get hints of like some of these bigger characters. And then they dropped that in there. And that was a moment that just kept giving and giving and giving, because you knew that they were gonna, one, you knew that everything was going to be okay. But two, you knew that this meant that one of the younglings who'd escaped from the temple when Anakin went nuts was now being essentially brought back into the Jedi Order by the son of the guy who killed all of the younglings, and the droid who would have known him.
So many layers to that scene.
So many layers, God. It was so good. There were so many points right there. I was just kind of that whole scene from the moment you realize it's Luke all the way until he disappears that was amazing.
Yeah. Did anybody think that was going to happen?
Everybody's like, I mean, there's only a couple Jedi out there. It's probably Luke, but there's no way they're going to bring in Luke. There's no way.
Yeah.
That was most people's reaction. Like even me, it was like, I'm like, Luke is the only one that makes sense, but there's no way they're going to bring in Luke. They're going to bring in something else. They're going to. I will say,
I think it would be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say it looked really funny seeing that character in there, because obviously it wasn't Luke.
I mean, it was Mark Hamill.
It was
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured that, but it's just
his voice and his likeness, but definitely not a body double.
It just looked different. It looked odd seeing it like that, but I still enjoyed it.
No, I'm curious. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think that this body double was better than what we've seen prior to in like Rogue One?
The technology was already better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rogue One was already 5 years ago?
Something like that, 4 years.
Yeah.
I think the last time we saw any de-aging in terms of Disney was Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel.
Oh, wow.
That was the last time. Yeah. That was the last
2016.
And even then, he was he just make up a bit, and then it wasn't too bad. But the full on would have been Rogue One with Peter Cushing and Leia with Tarkin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to go back real quick to the third point, unless we were still discussing.
Go ahead.
It was chapter 2, chapter 10. It was the second episode with the spider. For me, mainly visually, just seeing that whole battle scene with the spider, getting there and fighting it was pretty dope.
Some alien vibes
going. It is so uncomfortable throughout that whole thing. I hated it, but I loved it.
I think so. My three. The first one is Cobb Vanth showing up, him pulling off the helmet and seeing. I'm like, the fact that they brought him in is so cool to me. And like side note, like side point, the fact that he has Anakin's pod racer as a speeder, I'm like, that is the coolest thing.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite scene, it might be even like my favorite Star Wars scene, is in the second to last episode with Bill Burr of all people, uh, sitting at the table talking about
Mm-hmm.
Operation Cinder and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the
Yep.
fact that Bill Burr gives like some of the best acting Star Wars has ever seen, I'm like, that's insane to me.
Surprising too.
Surprising. Like you watch his eyes, you could see him getting mad, but also like sad at the same time without moving his face. I'm like, yo,
That was a badass scene.
yeah. And it was very like Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Yeah.
the last one would be Luke. Like when so they're like sitting in the command center there, and they're like a lone X-wing showed up. I'm like, oh cool, the X-wing. Where's the rest of them? Oh, 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 and I just started laughing. I curled up in my chair and I started laughing. I'm like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. And then like R2 shows up, and I'm like, ah! Just everything about that was so good, so good. And I also love that Luke wasn't there to. He's like, I'm building a new order. Come join me. He was literally there to help. Grogu called out for help, and that was. I'm like, that's what Luke is. And then I mean, there's talks online that it like totally goes against what Last Jedi is. I'm like, nah, that's exactly what Luke did in Last Jedi too. He gained back. Ray taught him back his thing, and he went to help. Ah, it was so good.
Well, and Mark Hamill's even had a couple of interviews where he talked about how the Luke that he played in the final three was a very different Luke
Yeah.
than what we had
It's 30
in
years
the
different.
middle three. Yeah, well, I mean, Luke is always the one who is never gonna back away from something. He's never gonna shut down and hide away because something got difficult. So he had a very hard time playing Luke in the last three movies until he kind of changed in his head that, well, maybe he was playing a different version of Luke.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the Luke Skywalker that we were used to. And I honestly, hearing him say that he had a hard time playing Luke in those last three because the character seemed so different than what we knew, made a lot of sense to me, kind of almost validated my feelings a little bit in how I feel about those last three movies, which we do not have to get into. But like just hearing him say like it's not the same character. It's not the same character that we expected.
Well, it's
very
like
much made sense.
I'm not the same person I was when I was a 5-year-old. Like, that it's just how life happens, right?
Yeah.
But we see these characters from most of them from like birth till death. So it's like, yeah, of course we're only going to get snapshots of their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we at some moment during the Return of the Jedi series didn't Luke talk about something that he tried to train people again and it didn't go so well?
What are you talking? Are you like in Rise?
I mean, he did.
He did train people.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought I remember something from one of the
Palpatine
shows.
just killed them all.
Yeah, no, I meant, but I don't know if at some point he was telling fuck, what's her name from?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if he was telling Ray at some point like it was like he tried to train more and then it didn't succeed, so that's why it was one of the reasons why he left.
He left.
Yeah, he was rebuilding the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, he left because
which is
Kylo. Well, so a little bit of lore. The Kylo Ren comic goes into what actually happened that day. So Luke sensed darkness in Kylo, thought, oh no, he's going to be another Vader. Moment of weakness, turns down his lightsaber. He's not going to swing, but that was the moment he needs. Ben fires back, force blast, and then sidebar, the Snoke / Palpatine blows up the Jedi Temple somehow with the Force. All the Jedi that are... Oh, yeah. It was Palpatine and Snoke. And then the remaining Jedi that are alive see see that Luke is supposedly dead because he's buried under rubble in Ben's hut. Blame Ben. He goes on the run, and then they hunt him down. But because they're hunting him down, that turns them away from the Jedi Order. And previously, they had run into the Knights of Ren, and so he runs to the Knights of Ren / Snoke. So that's a very summarized version of it. But basically, it was like he said, she said of who killed the Jedi Order. It wasn't actually Ben. He killed some of them because they came and attacked him. But yeah,
that ties a lot of that part of the story was definitely one. Did not know that because I'm still operating off of a lot of now not canon knowledge from the original sequel, lore. But that was one thing that just did not. I'd never had that.
It should have been explained in the movie. Honestly,
it really should have been. Yeah, I feel like they missed an opportunity there to really sell us on why Kylo went bad and went so far bad, to really kind of help sell the whole hero redemption story. Yeah.
But we could talk about sequels in a different episode. I think
Definitely.
Because I think my summation of it is as individual movies they're great. As a whole sequel, they're not great.
Yeah.
Like a whole trilogy, they're not great. And then it ties back to look at Mandalorian. They have a clear plan of what they're doing. Like they knew Luke was going to be in the show. They knew Ahsoka was going to be in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, they knew Boba was going to be in the show when they made the show. They're like, we're going to do this as a gateway for Boba.
Yep.
Like,
so cool.
They had a plan for this, and it shows. Like, I wasn't a fan of. Had you asked me at the beginning of the season if I wanted Luke in the show, I would have said no. Because I'm like, I don't want everybody knowing everybody, but it made sense for the story.
Yeah.
So that's
Especially on like how do we get rid of Grogu? Like because at some point Grogu's story has to end.
Just purely from a perspective of both of these characters need to grow, and they need to separate from each other at one point to grow. Even
it would have been so weird if we got one more season with Grogu. I would have been like, just
and I think he'll
write
be back.
him off.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
he'll be
He
back.
might be. Yeah, I'm for sure.
I don't think he was at the temple when it blew up. I think he's back.
That's why I brought it up, because I was like, so does something happen to Grogu? That would be interesting.
Listen,
to
he
know.
survived one temple massacre. He survived another one.
Honestly,
so fucking tiny.
Literally, he's gonna have like he had Anakin texting him, being like, "Don't show up to temple today," and then he got Kylo. Then he got Kylo saying, "Don't show up to temple today." He's like, "God damn it, freaking Skywalkers!" And then Rey will find him, and be like, "I'm Rey Skywalker," and he's no.
But isn't no, never mind. I'm not gonna bring that up. We'll save it for
I'm
next time we
curious,
talk about the trilogy.
Do we think that's why maybe the Mandalorian is, I don't want to say ending, but like, do we think that maybe that's why the focus is shifting over to like Boba Fett now, because we're gonna see maybe the Mandalorian is more of a side character in a shift in the story towards Boba Fett?
I don't think so.
No,
I think Mandalorian will stay with Mando, and it'll be more dealing with the fact that he's technically the leader of Mandalore, and we'll get a separate show. That I think it would be too hard of a cut. As much as most people would be like, yeah, Boba Fett's cool. I think they want to stick with Din for a while and deal with the politics of the whole Mandalore thing, and make Boba Fett his own show, and then they'll all intersect at some point.
That's kind of how I was thinking the next season or two, depending on how long they want to stretch it for Mandalorian. Because now we need to know, I guess, who's going to rule all the Mandalorians and their planet.
Technically, it's supposed to be Din. Like
technically what?
Technically it's Din because he disarmed Moff Gideon.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's that. I feel like they could stretch that out and they could have a whole thing of him.
Well, then there would be
not wanting to be
conflict between him and Bo-Katan. Which is cool.
Because he doesn't want to be ruler. He doesn't give a shit.
She wants to.
Exactly.
Because she had the dark side at one point.
I think Boba Fett will probably either we see him for a bit in the next season, or he just leaves, or we just don't see
Oh,
him
I
because he
think they will.
parted ways.
I think that just their stories are going to intersect. Literally, it's going to be like one week we get even it might even be like one episode is this week is Mandalorian, next week is Boba, next week is Mandalorian, next week is Boba. Like they just kind of
But
go.
would they have that within the Mandalorian show, or would they
No,
just say, "Here's another show, but every other week you're gonna
yeah,
get a
exactly.
different one"? Okay.
Every other week we get a different one. That's where I think they're going to go with it.
I mean, that would help extend the exposure and the general chatter about the franchise. Not that people aren't talking about Star Wars every day of the week already. But
Sorry.
like having two active shows going for a longer period of time would actually be smart on their part. Like it unfortunately means that we're like having to wait for a longer period of time to like
hmm
finish out that show, each
Well,
show.
unless they serve each other, though, that's what I'm saying is going to happen.
Right.
I could
Right.
see them starting out like that, but then I could see them just for the first season. I can see them doing that, and then for the second season, you see just Mandalorian for not just him, but like
Well, they
maybe
kind of
they
branch
might
out
still
a bit.
understand, but they might just do Mandalorian season, and then when the Mandalorian season ends, they bring in the Book of the Boba series,
Yeah. Well, I could
and
see
then
them
they
doing
just
what
go
they did
back and
with
forth.
Punisher and Daredevil season
That's
two.
what I was thinking. They
Like
just kind of
they introduced him in season two, ironically season two of this show, and then branch him out into his own thing, and then but
yeah.
also have it like intertwined with how the story's going, and then eventually they just kind of go off and do their own thing. That's where I
That's
think
how I
it's
was saying. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, I'm excited. Like I'm fine with whatever they do. Literally
Mm.
whatever they do, I'm happy because
Yeah.
clearly they're like, oh yeah, we can literally do whatever we want in the show, and it'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I never thought I would say it, but I'm actually kind of happy that Disney bought them out.
Oh, I'm
This
very
is
happy.
this is the moment. This is my validation. I've been saying
Yeah.
like when
Yeah.
the moment it was announced, I was still in high school. When they announced Disney was taking over, I said friends were like, "Oh, it's gonna be the death of the series. There's gonna be new movies and stuff like that." I'm like,
It
"No,
was that long ago?
it was a
Damn.
long time ago, yeah." And I'm like, "No, there's gonna be a time when it's gonna be the golden age of Star Wars, purely because they're pumping out so much content."
And this is it.
And now I think we're getting into it purely with how
Yeah.
many. There's 10 new Star Wars shows coming out in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy from where they went with the new trilogy to this. I was so disappointed with that trilogy.
And I
It
think at this
just
point, I'm like, maybe that was the plan. Maybe they were like, we just gotta give like a 36-year gap in the timeline of Star Wars. I guess we'll make some movies, and then because I think the really good ones are like Rogue One and Solo. Those are both
I
really
think those are the
solid movies.
best.
But then they're like, okay, cool. We have 36 years of playground that we could just do whatever the hell we want. And
It's like while we were rushing out these movies, we were making good shit.
Yeah.
and now they're like starting up next in a couple weeks. They're starting up the High Republic, and then we're getting a show in the High Republic. I'm
so excited for that.
It's so exciting. And apparently, like all the reviews for the new High Republic stuff is like it's phenomenal.
I didn't know what was coming out, but I'm glad you do know. I didn't know any of this shit.
Well,
I know you would.
there's a new show coming out called The Acolyte. It's going to be a dark side story that takes place 50 years before Phantom Menace. And
Honestly, after seeing Mandalorian stuff, I'm excited for anything Star Wars related coming out.
Yeah,
It's cool.
I mean, we've been in kind of a glut of really good Star Wars stuff lately. Like we've had good Star Wars games. Like
finally got good Star Wars games.
Yeah, this is stuff. This is stuff that has been built and headed up by people our age who grew up watching Star Wars, loving Star Wars, and making it their own passion project. And I think that's now starting to be seen more. Like in the past, we've had games and stuff, like just a lot of stuff that was Star Wars related that was just kind of made because it was a good money opportunity for a lot of these companies that wanted to sell this franchise.
That's
and
true.
Now we're starting to get into the period where the Star Wars fans have grown up and they're starting to make stuff that fits the narrative. It's essentially what's happened with Harry Potter. Harry Potter's been taken over by the fans, and no one gives a flying fuck what happens to J.K. Rowling. We don't give a shit. We don't need her anymore. She gave us the characters. She gave us an amazing world. We took that and we said, fuck you and your transphobia. We're going to go ahead and take these characters who are actually fantastic characters, and we're going to make them our own. And that's what's going, like, we're getting to that point now where like the fans have grown up and the fans have taken over, and you've got people like Dave Filoni who are, passionate fans
Literally
of the
trained
series
by
who
George
just want to
Lucas
make.
how to make it.
Yeah.
These are people like Cook who, like Andrew, who breathe with Star Wars
Yeah.
Yep.
for their entire lives. So now they're going to show us what they've been breathing.
I'm literally legitimately like after that episode, I was watching, obviously, like reading all the books and comics and all the shows and stuff before that, and I would still do that, but now I'm more excited about I'm probably the most excited I have been about Star Wars since The Force Awakens got announced.
Yeah.
Like when The Force Awakens got announced, I was like, yes, this is the greatest
Yeah.
thing. But now I'm like, this is a whole other thing.
Yeah. It does feel like phase 2 of
Yeah.
the reviving of Star Wars.
I'm happy. Legitimately happy.
Yeah.
I think we talked about our predictions a little bit of what season 3 is going to be.
Bro, I'm excited. Fuck, I gotta wait for a whole year.
I know.
Sucks.
What, December 2021?
Fuck.
Yeah, because everything kind of got pushed back because of the pandemic. Dating this podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. Welcome to the end of 2020, the worst year on record.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So far.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. No, I think the next year will be good. When it'll let us cool down a little bit. I never really mind that period of wait. Like I do mind obviously the period of waiting between, one series and another. But I feel like it's worth it so far. And that's when I know that the wait is okay. It's like when so far everything has been prime quality, it's okay. Like I felt that way about Game of Thrones. Like you knew that the wait was going to be long. Like it was going to be like we waited 2 years at one point for
And it
for the
was
series to come
almost
back.
always worth it.
It was almost always worth it, right up until the last season.
Right until the end.
Until
We
they
don't talk
jump
about
ship
that.
to
We
do
don't
Star
talk
Wars,
about
and
that.
then
We
they
don't talk-
went,
Yeah,
and
no,
then they
no, we
went,
don't have to
oh
talk
no,
about
we're
that.
not
But
going to do
like,
Star Wars.
but the comparisons important because it's like it's a really good. What am I trying to say here? It's a really good comparison between like what you will do to wait for a really good show. Like that's the important. That's what's important now. Like we now know that we can wait because it's going to be okay when we actually get it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It'll be a year, but
Well,
it'll be a good year.
And even then, we got like Bad Batch coming out in like February, March. So it's not
Yeah.
like we're not going to get new shows.
I was just gonna say that, like, in the meantime, we're gonna get other Star Wars stuff, so we got stuff to
Like,
keep busy.
and we at least got one more coming out this next year. So we got Bad Batch, and then Mando season 3 and Book of Boba, whatever that it looks like.
And whenever that is coming out.
And then after the next year after that, hypothetically, we have the Kenobi series, we have Cassian Andor, Mando season 4, Bad Batch season 2. I'm assuming like it's literally gonna kick off, and there's so much coming, and I'm excited about it.
Yep.
And the games, apparently, like Matt Martin from he's part of the story group. They kind of like shepherd the story and make sure like little story details aren't like contradicting each other and stuff like that.
Right.
He said
Right.
this is the most excited he's been about Star Wars gaming since 2005. With stuff that hasn't been announced yet, that's coming up, that's supposed to be in the next year and a half. And
Commandos.
literally, no,
Right?
in 2005 was the year that Commando came out. Battlefront 2 came out. A bunch of Lego Star Wars, the first Lego Star Wars came out.
But I'm saying another Commandos is coming out. I'm
want
so fucking...
the composer said he used the song again, so I'm like, please.
Bro, come on. That's all I
Please.
want. It's gonna be the first Star Wars game I play again.
I am ready for more Star Wars games. There's been very little that has up until just here recently with
Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order kind of it took over. It 100% took over. Like if I had like a favorite Star Wars game up until that point, it was probably Rogue Squadron, because when Rogue Squadron was out on the N64, I was a very happy kid. But there were a lot of other ones, like a lot of the really now terrible looking
Pod Racer
games they had.
Pod Racer looks so bad, but so much fun.
It was so bad, but so good. But yeah,
Wait, from the Nintendo 64?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love that game. Are you
Yeah, it's
kidding
so
me?
Great
good.
game.
It's so
It was a
it's like
Love
great
that
game.
game. I still have it, dude.
it's on Switch now.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
let me get
it is available. It is available.
Ooh.
But yeah,
Ooh.
no, that we had some good ones. Like they weren't all like I said before, they were very much different companies trying to cash in on a really
Yeah.
lucrative franchise. And then we got Fallen Order, which was fans making a game that fit into the Star Wars universe.
And
that
it was a love
passion
letter
project.
to every part of Star Wars. It
Exactly.
wasn't like
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest gripes with the sequel trilogy is it kind of not the sequel trilogy, J.J. Abrams sequel trilogy. He just goes like, "Oh yeah, only the originals are what I care about." Whereas
Yeah.
whereas Ryan Johnson actually like referenced Sidious and the takeover of the Empire and stuff like that. Stuff for the prequels.
Uh-huh.
And Fallen Order was a perfect example of that. It was like you had the weight of the lightsaber was very much the original trilogy, but it still did the flourishes of the prequel. It was little details.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. I'm excited for more of that. Like I think we're gonna see a lot of that over the next few years. And I'm excited that Disney's actually pumping money into this. Like I think this will be
Their
this will
investments
be like
finally
the
paying
second
off.
golden age.
They gotta know it's their gold mine. Like this
Oh,
is their
yeah.
gold mine. And all the merch they can make from all this. Oh, dude,
Mm-hmm.
Merch. I mean, that's what George Lucas made all his money off was merch.
easy money.
Like
Easy
when he sold not sold the rights, but sold the script to Fox, he made the deal that he got all the merchandising profit. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's the money's in the ticket sales. He's like, cool.
Yes.
And he literally used what all the merch he made from New Hope. He funded Empire like
Oh my gosh.
by himself. Yeah, the amount of merch they're gonna be making is insane. I mean, my room is littered with Star Wars Lego. They have me.
No, I don't believe it.
What?
You just have like pictures, right?
Yeah.
Just pictures.
Posters. Just
So-
posters.
And a Lego set or two.
Or two. Or all.
Or 5,000.
Oh, I just burped. Very professional.
Very professional.
Anyway, I think that's a good place to stop. It's a good 45 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining whoever's ends up actually listening to this, but this is the first episode of Sheev's Throne Room, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.